Hello and welcome back to It's Pod O'Clock, episode 14, I believe, but it is covering match weeks 14 and 15, as we have, of course, played two in the space of as many days. I am sat here currently watching Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, if I'm not mistaken, could be conceding right now. I think they've got away from it for now, but if they win, they will go above us. Is that correct? We've got a few things to go through today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter one, unfortunately, just because I've got stuff I need to do, and I didn't want to miss the episode. But yeah, if they win, they'll go a point above us, up to 26 points. So we could, and you'll know ahead of time if you're listening on Spotify whether or not we are out of the top four. But if you're watching here live on YouTube, thank you very much. Please do like the video, subscribe. My hair is all over the place because, and I'll tell you why, we don't always talk about football on here. You know, like to sort of discuss things going on in my life and whatnot. And I can tell you now, one of my favorite things, one of my least favorite things to do in the world is officially back. I managed 2 minutes today, 2 full minutes. I did do one maybe like a week ago, but the ice baths, they're back. And I was sat in the dark then. I thought it was weird. It was weird because for those of you that have watched or did watch or at least knew about it, obviously did the 100 days and recorded pretty much every single, no, I'd say pretty much. Let me just turn down this light because it's a bit bright. Did 100 days of ice baths, and it was fucking cold. And I was sat there today, literally 5-10 minutes, I'd say about 10 minutes ago, 10-15 minutes ago. I was sat there thinking, how on earth did I ever do this? How was this ever something I was able to do? Because sure, I suppose like throughout the days, over time, it got easier. And people might say, well, yeah, it was getting warmer the longer you were doing it. But there were definitely days where it was like 4-5 degrees. Today it was about 8.5 degrees, I think, Celsius. So it's cold. It's bloody cold. But we managed to get 2 minutes. Like I said, I did a minute the first time a couple of days ago, but 2 minutes today. So I'm happy with that. I'm very, very happy with that. And now, hopefully, between now, I've got a bit of a plan going on now between now and when I go to America around the time of the World Cup. And I want to get in good shape again. No, I haven't put it all back. Well, I put most of it back on, but not all of it. All of it. Listen, holiday. It just it was one thing, and then this, that, everything else. Chelsea being up and down, and the Club World Cup, and things happen, and I'm almost glad it was a bit of a reset because I now know how to do things a bit better. I've got a bit of a different plan this time to try and minimize the body fat percentage rather than the number on the scale, which was always, people always fucking faff about and ponce about with the number on the scale, and to a degree, with the 100-day challenge, the goal for me was to lose as much weight as possible on the scale, which isn't necessarily going to translate to sort of, body fat percentage dropped. And so a number on the scale, it's water weight, it's fat, it's muscle as well. Whereas on an average day, I'd say during the 100 days, I was probably, especially towards the back end, I was banging in 1,400 to 1,700 calories a day. which is just not enough. Just not even remotely enough. However, obviously, because of the challenge and documenting it and everything, I felt obliged to trying to lose as much as possible in as little time. Whereas this, I've got well over 200 and sort of like 20 days to sort of hone in, do things right. I'm eating about 2,200 calories a day, which is still, it's not low, but it's not high by any stretch for someone of my height and sort of current weight and everything. But I'm eating like 220 grams of protein and, well over 200 grams of protein, which is one of the key things to ensure that I'm losing as much body fat rather than muscle and fat, which is why, although I lost a load of weight, I'd rather be 15% body fat and 190 pounds rather than 170 pounds but 28% body fat. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'd rather be lean but heavy than light but skinny fat. Does that make sense? But either way, I'm happy to be back on it. Nav, thank you very much for the super chats. And tell your daughters thank you for watching. As always, a pleasure to make content for all of you. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. As I said, it's not so much the scale that I'm going to be looking at. It's more so the body fat percentage. But anyway, I've dabbled on that for a little bit now, and we can now go on into the FPL. Let's go on to the FPL. We're not finished now for the week. We've still got is it Manchester United play tomorrow away to Wolves at the Molineux. So I mean, I think I've got Mbeumo maybe. But other than that, I won't have any Wolves players, I'll tell you that much. So I'm fairly sure today's games are pretty much the end of it for me. 38 points at the end of match or game week 15 so far. I do have Mark Guehi's on the bench. Mateta's on the bench. It's not been a good week. 38 points is not bad. Trevor Chalobah got me 11 points. What? How did Trev get me 11 points? What? How? Chalobah got 11 points for... Did he get man of the match or something? 11 points in a 0-0 draw as a defender. What's that all about? I'm unsure. David Raya, Timber, obviously, we'll get into that in just a second. But game week 14. Whoa! Whoa! Your boy pulled some numbers there. I tell you what, 74 points. Can you believe it? I don't remember getting so much. Haaland, did he score a hat-trick? What happened there? I know he got a goal and an assist. So match week 14, I managed to get 74 points. By far the most amount of points that I've gotten so far in FPL for a match week. But then obviously now back down to 38, back down to reality. As it stands, 39th in the table, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. I'm on 768 points. First place, David Siemens, who frequents the top of the leaderboard for a while now, is on 924 points, which is just... Get a fucking job. You know what I'm saying? Get a life. I'm sick of it. But anyway, for today's one, we are watching the first half of Fulham versus Crystal Palace. But without further ado, please do like the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification. If you're listening on Spotify, give me a 5 stars. Why not? Shall we talk about the first game? Shall we? Do we have to? I don't really want to. Leeds. Ellen Rose. I'd say the less said about it, the better. Or at least I would be saying that had we come back with a win against Bournemouth. But, you know, we'll get into that in just a second. I just... It's the same old story. And in fact, I might as well talk about both in the same vein because it's pretty much the same game, except we somehow avoided conceding against Bournemouth. I find that it's all become all too commonplace and all too a regular occurrence for Chelsea's heads to drop, which is the title of the video, or the thumbnail of the video is Problems Arise When Heads Drop. And to many, I'm sure when you think of the term heads dropping, it's for the most part because of being in a situation where, the game's gone, you've lost it, heads are dropped, do you know what I mean? You're feeling sorry for yourself, you're sulking or whatever. But in the context of this, heads dropped going into the Leeds game after a draw, a very good draw against Arsenal. As I said, we'll get into Arsenal in just a second, but you'd think with the resounding results, the win against Burnley on the back end of an international break, a 12:30 kickoff, a win against an unlikely opponent in terms of, one like the Leeds game, like the Bournemouth game, that we are finding ourselves on a bit of a battle to get a result against a team that we would otherwise probably fuck up against, which, again, excuse me, French, like the Leeds game, like the Bournemouth game, the Burnley game seemed on the face of it like a game that we would probably balls up in one way or another. However, it was not the case, and we ended up winning 2 or 3-0, I think it was, in the end. Goals from Enzo Fernandez and I can't remember. Pedro Neto, maybe? Fucking who cares? It's so long ago. But it's the start of a great week. And then obviously Barcelona, fantastic 3-0 win there. And then Arsenal as well. It's just... my concern with Maresca, above all else now, and I think I'm well within my rights to say this, because at times I think a lot of things are subjective. There was one dope who commented on the review yesterday who, first of all, labeled me an influencer, which I thought was very generous, or a derogatory term. I don't know if being called an influencer is a compliment these days, but I guess in some capacity, I hold that title in a way. I don't know. I doubt. I don't claim it. But I would say that the resounding thing that's come out of this, the resounding response that's come from this, is that Maresca, God help him, he can't get these players ready for a smaller game to save his fucking life. And you know what? I'm going to get that comment up, and I'm not going to name and shame per se, but I am going to name and display. Where is it? Shall we have a look? Here we go. And a goal from Crystal Palace, and Nketiah puts Chelsea to 5th. Crystal Palace, who, by the way, I don't want to go into it too much because I want to maybe put a bullet point on this, but fucking what a bunch of whiny babies the Crystal Palace fans are. Bunch of absolute, especially Glasner, fucking absolute wuss. We're 4th. We're in Europe. We need more players. It's going pretty fucking well for you, though, isn't it? Who do you think you are? Who the Crystal Palace think you won an FA Cup for the first time in your fucking history? Who do you think you are to be complaining and be like, "Oh, we could have invested, but we chose to save." Shut up, you absolute fucking dope. Oh my God, it drives me nuts. One of my best mates is a Palace fan, and he's texted me yesterday saying, "What was it? Good result against Bournemouth, was it? What was it? Oh, 0-0 with Bournemouth, so I'm happy with that." Fuck off. Shut up. You were moaning the other day, calling out Parish with Glasner, saying, "Oh, fucking, we should be doing better than what? You're fourth. Crystal Palace are fourth place. You have no right to complain as fans. I'm sorry. If even 3 years ago, however many years ago when it was, when you were under Patrick Vieira, if you got told then that you'd win the FA Cup, you'd be in the Conference League and you'd be fourth in the fucking table, you'd take that all the way home. You wouldn't be complaining like I've seen so many. And his excuse was, success creates problems. And, it turns people into moaners. You're fucking right. You're fucking absolutely right. Goodness me. To me, I've always had a soft spot for Palace, and to a degree, I want them to succeed. The fans, I've always said that the away fans, the fans as a whole, I'm almost positive that the most people moaning are online fans, which is typically the case. And it's not indicative of the match-going fans. For me, match-going fans, I think Palace are up there. In terms of English football anyway, I would argue they're up there worldwide, genuinely. As a representative of English support, Crystal Palace fans are up there. But fuck me sideways. Are they some whingy bastards all of a sudden? Becoming unlikable. It's going to be the same with like Nottingham Forest, who everyone sort of had Nottingham Forest as a team that they sort of thought, they're good on them, As a neutral, I hope they do all right. Fucking, more power to them and all that sort of bollocks. And now, with their issues with Crystal Palace and them taking their Europa League spot and, being whining bastards, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that Crystal Palace fans are complaining about their situation. Shut the fuck up. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, back to the comment. Randall Bowles says, "This is on the ownership, not the gaffer. Yet another influencer not naming the real issue, Blueco." All right, okay. Go on. "This guy has tactics that can beat Barcelona and PSG." Oh, Fulham have hit the bar. "But what you lot aren't realizing is he is forced to constantly rotate to keep the merchandise fresh," which I've heard this theory, right, is that we rotate as much as we do to almost put everyone possible on the shop window and to sort of boost the stocks as much as possible for our entire squad. I'm not disagreeing with that, I could absolutely see that being the case. However, not really so far understanding your point, because we had our strongest possible 11 out. So this is for the Bournemouth game. This isn't for the Leeds game. I think this is for the Bournemouth game. Yeah. Multiple times they've been caught essentially admitting they use computers and the front office to dictate lineups. I would argue there's likely little to no evidence to support that claim. This is why Thomas Tuchel could not stay as manager. He wanted lineup control, and they are not going for that. They want a manager who is friendly to the model of constantly rotating their merchandise to keep it fresh for sale. Which, in a way, I feel like you're kind of on at Maresca there for being a bit of a yes man. So I would say it is partially on the manager for being a yes man, if your claim is correct. However, I just want to say as well, on top of what I said with Chelsea fielding our strongest possible 11 against Bournemouth yesterday and not getting a goal, not scoring against a team who haven't not conceded, or should I say they haven't kept a clean sheet since September. Ironically, the same amount of time that we've gone without scoring a goal. So we went 20 games in a row scoring in every single game in all competitions. And that starts from the Crystal Palace game at the beginning of the season, back in September or August, whenever it was. And Bournemouth haven't kept a clean sheet since September. So we're working on the same sort of guidelines, just a bit, back and forth in terms of no clean sheet or clean sheet. We played our strongest side. Bournemouth were without 7, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5 or 6, but I think it was 7 important players going into this game, whether through suspension or injury. They have been regressing, going down the table, getting worse, losing 5 games in a row, or winless in 5. I think they lost 4 and drew 1. And our away form a week ago was second by 1 point short of Arsenal, who are top of the table. But now, I'm supposed to believe that Maresca isn't at least partially to blame for lacking in getting a result in the last 2 games. Realistically, again, these 2 results, albeit a big loss against Leeds and a draw against Bournemouth, they're virtually the same result. It was the same sort of thing, although we were slightly better against Bournemouth. I would put that down to the fact that we actually had a better team out, but we still couldn't get it done against Bournemouth, who I've seen some people say that it's just because they sit back. Bournemouth sit back. They didn't go at us. They sat back the whole game, and Chelsea don't deal well with teams that sit back. They only deal well when a team goes for them, when a team goes to them. Then they have the chance to counterattack, blah, blah, blah. Right. Shall we take a look at some of the statistics, right? Bournemouth, allegedly, to some people, believe that they didn't take it to us, that they didn't go at us, that they sat back. Chelsea, total shots, 11. Shots on target, 4. Now, would you be surprised if I was to tell you that Bournemouth had more of both of those than Chelsea? Again, total shots for Chelsea, 11. Shots on target, 4. Bournemouth, total shots, 13. And shots on target, 5. To me, that is not a team sitting back. That is not a team that is setting up for a draw or a trying to prevent a loss. That's a team trying to win, because much like Leeds, they very, very much had every chance to, because they smelt blood. Everton, for instance, is going to be a game. They're a much better team than both of those teams that we're going to be coming up against in our next game, in the Premier League anyway. We've got Atalanta on Tuesday. But Everton are on good form at the moment. We'll look at those, shall we? In their last 4 games, they've won. In their last 5 games, they've won 4. In their last 5 games, they've won 4 with a clean sheet. And their only loss came at home to Newcastle, right? So I don't know, going into this game, because they're good, because they're doing well, do we just assume that Chelsea are going to play well? Do we assume that this Chelsea side is going to win? Because, Everton are actually decent in terms of Everton. Does that mean we're going to get a result against them? And I'm fairly sure we're playing away, aren't we? No, we're at home. Even worse, but still. Do you get the dilemma that we have here? Is the unpredictability of we're back to square one in terms of predictability. We're back to square one in terms of being able to assess whether or not Chelsea, going into any game, can get a result. No one predicted 3-0 against Barcelona. No one predicted a draw against Arsenal. And I'd argue no one predicted a 3-1 loss against Leeds. I would say the only predictable result was a 0-0 with Bournemouth in hindsight. It did seem like a game that, given the results that we've had recently, it's just not surprising. After that Leeds game, that Leeds loss, I don't think there was any confidence. There was sort of, I wouldn't say excuses, but there were claims, not claims. Mateta's well offside there. Not claims, reports, I guess, that I would say hold some sort of weight in terms of like a reasonable, okay, that makes sense sort of situation. Because we finished against Leeds. Between the game against Leeds and Bournemouth, Maresca only saw the players once. When he did the press conference on Friday or Thursday, maybe, he hadn't seen the players and was going to go and do a light training session with them. And I'm assuming that was Thursday because Friday they don't train the day before a game. So that would have been Thursday. Do a light session and then they're off on Friday. So they've only got one training session, only really one interaction with Maresca to be able to sort of work out what happened in that Leeds game. So I can fully understand that maybe it's, some creases weren't ironed out, some issues weren't sort of worked out. And you can use that as some sort of leeway as to why we didn't necessarily get a result. At the same time, this is Bournemouth, and I'm not doing the whole. It's only Karabakh. It's only I'm not looking down on these. I'm looking at them and thinking we should fucking beat these teams. It's not me looking and thinking they're shit. I'm saying go there to win. Go there, and obviously, well, you're not going to go there to lose, are you? With these fuckers, you never know. Yeah, you never know. It's a weird situation that, like I said, we find ourselves now. Oh, so lucky that is. Jesus Christ. Didn't get a goal, though. We are now predictably unpredictable once again. And it all comes at the exact moment that I start giving much more backing to Maresca. And I'm not going to stop doing that now because we're starting to be a bit stinky. But it's just utterly frustrating that as soon as I start going like, all right, I'll lay off Maresca a little bit and I'll give him benefit of the doubt because you know what? We're doing all right. The results have been decent. Barcelona was great. Arsenal's good. Let's see how he fares against Leeds and Bournemouth. And he shit the bed. Absolutely cacked everywhere. And it is, of course, it's down to the players. But I just feel that in these games, I've seen more people now who were usually, it's not Maresca, it's the players. The players got to be held accountable. And whilst I do agree with that, I've seen a couple of people, I've seen a few people who are normally very pro Maresca say, do you know what, Maresca, fuck that. Maresca got that wrong. And for them to acknowledge that, the Bournemouth game and the Leeds game were on Maresca in some capacity. And when I say some, I mean like the large majority of the blame goes to Maresca for either the way he's set up in the Leeds game or, the just the tactics and or the lack of being able to get the players up for the occasion in the Bournemouth game. You need to have that ability as a manager to, when you lose a couple of days prior at Ellen Road to a Leeds who are shit, fucking poo, yeah? You need to be able to get them to turn it around in the next game in a couple of days. That's just the fundamentals of football. That's the fundamentals of, mentality in football is you lose as a big team anyway. Obviously, if you're losing week in, week out, you're fucking shit, aren't you? But when you're a Chelsea side who are suddenly being labelled as, Chelsea are they title contenders? Are they, are they tickling the nutsack of Arsenal? Are they got some sort of bearing on competing for the title? Arsenal losing against Aston Villa yesterday. We had a chance moments later to gain 3 points on them. And we shit the bed. I worked it out, right? And I think a lot of people are like, I'm unsure you can really count those points as like points missed out. You absolutely can. So we did it yesterday, but 6 points this week's gone, or 5 points, I guess. But 6 points should have been taken this week from Bournemouth and Leeds. I'm not taking any other debates from that. It's just the way it is. It should have been 6 points this week. We shouldn't have lost against Sunderland because that 93rd minute, brilliant goal from Fulham there, I think. 1-1. Back and forth, baby. Maresca at the wheel. So what's that? That's 7 points. Brighton, we fucked that completely. But at the same time, they scored 2 goals in the 90th minute. So that's a draw. So that's 8 points. I think we would have beaten Manchester United. So that's 11 points. Brentford's, we should have won that as a 93rd minute. So that's 13 points because we already got the point from that. So 13 points for that. And then that's it, really. I wouldn't have taken anything from the Crystal Palace. So you look at the table, 13 points would put us on 38 points. And that's me being lenient. That, for me, is giving us points for games that we lost in the 90th minute, or the red card against Manchester United, or, games that we just shouldn't have fucked in the way that we did. And I'm not just giving us wins either. I'm giving us a draw here, a loss, a win there. So the fact that we could be on 38 points if we didn't capitulate and make errors the way we do, I just don't know. And then you look at it this week, as well as the points missed out. It's the biggest sign that we are still nowhere near ready to compete for the title. But at the same time, in this season, you look at the people that are competing. Arsenal dropping points yesterday as well, 3 points, losing. I've said that they're overrated as fuck. So many people just disagree. On the podcast with Alex and Troy, I've mentioned many times, are they overrated? I'm just asking the question. They've played 4 big games this season, 5 if you include Tottenham, but they always beat Tottenham, so I'm not including that. So 4 games Arsenal have played this season. that are their big games. Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and Aston Villa. I'm putting Aston Villa there because they're obviously in the top 3 at the moment. They lost to Liverpool, who are obviously they were good at the time, but they still lost, regardless of how shit they are now. But they still lost. They drew to City, they drew to us, and they lost to Aston Villa in their 4 biggest challenges so far this season. So I'm not understanding the overhype, the overreaction to just how good this Arsenal side really are. And I know that they'll say, but we're missing Saliba, we're missing Gabriel, we're missing this person, that person. Fucking deal with it. Deal with it. Plenty of teams over the years have had to deal with injuries and still gone on to win the league. I'm not having that excuse this season. If the mighty Arsenal, who I do think have every chance of still going on to win it because it's still sort of hazy, it's still all over the place as to who on earth, if anyone, could win this besides them. They are the best of a very bad bunch. You know, we are. And this is no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but we are currently watching Palace in a game where they could go 4th. I know the times change. I know that they, I know that things happen in football, you know. I never thought I'd see the day that Crystal Palace were title challengers, shall we say. But yeah, I looking forwards, we've got some games galore, actually. Quite a few games. We do still have to play Bournemouth back at Stamford Bridge before the end of the 2025, the calendar year. And we've also got 2 cup games. Atalanta up next. If we look at them, what's their form right now? They beat Frankfurt 3-0. They beat Marseille 1-0. Where are they in the table? Jesus. They are 10th. If we win, we go up to 13 points, which in mathematical terms puts us up to 2nd place in the Champions League, just 2 points behind table leaders Arsenal. Such a good team. Wow. No, they are doing well in the Champions League. I'm worried they're going to win the Champions League. They might not win the Premier League, but I do think they might win the Champions League. But then again, PSG and Bayern, you know, and us for that matter. It just screams Champions League winning season for Chelsea, does it not? It really does. It genuinely does. I just wouldn't be surprised if we go on to win the Champions League somehow. You know, I think it's going to be possibly one of those seasons, but then it's obviously not going to be at the same time. So we've got Atalanta. Again, because of the situation we find ourselves in at the moment, I have absolutely no fucking idea where we're going to end up in that game. Virtually the same. 3 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. Same amount of points, just different goal difference is all that separates us. Everton in the Premier League this week. And I think we might lose it. It's at home, which doesn't really mean anything, but we are 14th in our form at home. 3 wins, 2 draws.